Alright, so this is like part 2, basically, of trig ratios. And so before we were just learning how to set up trig ratios, and we were using those to find missing sides. So now we're going to use what we call inverse trig ratios to find the missing angles. So if you know the sine, cosine, or tangent ratio of an angle, you can use the inverse function, which is what we call, or I guess we write it like this, to find the measure of the angle. And there is a button on your calculator for this as well. Again, that degree function is so important. But what you do is when, for instance, if we're looking at number 1, if I want to find this degree, or this angle x, and I'm given two sides, I look at, again, I have to look at which of my functions am I going to need. So I need to look at what's given to me. So if this is my angle here, I am given the opposite side and the hypotenuse. So that tells me I need to use my sine function. So remember, we set up a sine function as the sine of whatever angle we're given, but in this case it's just x, is equal to the opposite, which is 15, over the hypotenuse, which is 24, in this problem here. Now, we can't just leave it sine of x equals 15 over 24. We can reduce that fraction, but we don't have to right now. But we can use what we call the inverse of sine function, okay? And so that's where x is going to equal sine, and then it's written like to the negative 1 power of 15 over 24. And we put it in our calculator just like this. So that inverse sine function, sine to the negative 1 power, you should see it. If you have like a the TI 83 or 84, you hit second and then just the sine button. And that's going to give you your inverse sine function. Same with inverse cosine, inverse tangent. So you should be able to find that on your calculator. It will look identical to, it'll look just like this. All right, and then you put 15 over 24 in the parentheses and you press equal. And you should get 38.7 degrees. Again, your calculator must be in that degree mode. Make sure it's in that degree mode. If it's not, you're going to get something weird and you're not going to get the right answer. Okay, so that's all you're doing. You're identifying, okay, which sides am I given in reference to that angle? Okay, then that tells me, do I need to use sine, cosine, or tangent? Then you're finding the inverse of that function that's going to give you that angle. Okay, so let's look at number 2. All right, so here's my angle, x. I'm given, this is my adjacent side, and this is my hypotenuse. So I need to use ka from SOHCAHTOA. So that means I'm going to use cosine, which is adjacent over hypotenuse. So the cosine of angle x is equal to my adjacent side 8 over my hypotenuse 11. So to find x, I use my inverse cosine function of 8 over 11. Just like that. And then all I do is put that in my calculator. You should end up with x equals 43.3 degrees. And again, we're rounding to the nearest tenth based on the directions here. So make sure you're rounding to the nearest tenth. Okay. And that's all you do to find the missing angle when you're given two sides of a right triangle. So go ahead and finish 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then the rest of this section is all review. You're going back in, let's see, number 7 through 10 are finding missing sides. So side, 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 sides. So using what we learned in last section, finding missing sides. And then 11 through 14 is finding missing angles, so what we just did on 1 and 2. 15, 16, 17, and 18 are a little mix of all of them. Don't let 15 and 16 scare you. Again, look at what you are given. Okay, yeah, you're given 2 triangles this time. And pay attention to what it's wanting you to find. Okay, so it says find DE. This is what you are trying to find right here. Right there. So maybe set that equal to x. Let's see. We'll leave that as x. That's what we're trying to find. That's our x. Okay, you got to look at what do I need to find in order to find that? Because I don't have enough info here. I don't have at least one side of this small triangle that it's on. If I'm given the angle F here, or DFE, but I need at least one side. You have to look at, okay, can I find one of those sides? I can't find my hypotenuse. I don't have enough information. But I can find this side because of the info given in this triangle here. So look at how you can find this side. We'll call this one Y. Okay. Then look at how you can use that Y and the angle DFE to find X. Okay. Same with 16. Look at what you're given and how you can use that to find what it's asking you for. 17 and 18, they're word problems. Draw the picture. I can't stress to you enough. Draw the picture. I don't care so much about your art skills. I just want you to draw the picture. Okay? So, this section's short. It's just a lot of review. And then the big part, though, is learning these inverse trig functions. So, find that inverse trig button on your calculator and make sure that you're using that correctly. Again, double check. Make sure your calculators are in degree mode. Okay? If you have questions, send me a message. Ask in class. We will pick some of these to go over tomorrow.